Hello, welcome back. If you are new here, then hi. My name is Nicole Anderson and this is Beauty in the Brains. I like to talk about books, well, horror books, and I like to do my makeup at the same time. But today, I'm not talking about any books. I am talking about my own spooky personal ghost stories. If you hear a bird screaming its head off in the background, that's my bird. His name is Pretty Boy. He's a cockatiel and he likes to scream. I know that a lot of people simply do not believe in ghosts. I'm not here to force you to believe in ghosts or anything. I don't even know if I truly 100% believe in ghosts either. I think that there's something out there. Cue the X-Files theme song. I don't really understand exactly what I went through, and I went through a lot of stuff. One thing I really do not appreciate is when staunch non-believers just chalk up ghost stories or people that have seen ghosts as people who have a mental illness. I really don't like that. I think it's very untrue. I have anxiety, but it's just generalized anxiety. Would that be called a mental illness? I feel like it can be severe, but for me personally, it's not severe. So at least that's what my therapist says. My ghost stories go as far back as from when I was like about 4 years old. It's a story that my mom and my sister know very well because they were old enough and lucid enough to actually have a memory about it. It actually happened in this very house, my childhood home, where my mom and my sister saw a young boy in the hallway of our home. My sister and my mom were on the living room couch, which faces the hallway. And I think they were watching SpongeBob or some kind of cartoon. My mom is just like zoning out. She's tired, she's a mom. My sister kind of goes stiff and she's just like paralyzed and very tense. And my mom looks down at her like, what's going on? And my sister is just staring dead ahead at the hallway in fear. And my mom looks over and she said that there was this little boy. So like here's the hallway and the little boy was like looking over at them. My mom said that she did feel fear, but it was more of like just like the initial shock of seeing something there that isn't supposed to be there. It took her brain, like her brain did some laps, like, is this an intruder? Oh wait, no, it's a small boy. Like, but wait, is the small boy intruding? Like, what is going on in my house is like what was going through my mom's head. And then she quickly realized this is not a person. She said that out of instinct, she just closed her eyes and kind of also tensed up and just said a prayer, like, please God, take this thing out of my house. And then she opened her eyes and he was gone. And apparently I was in my childhood bedroom sleeping and my father was in his bedroom sleeping. There was a time, I think it was like either 1 or 2 years later. I'm not even doing my makeup. I'm so caught up in my own stories. Yeah, it was like 1 or 2 years later that it was pouring rain outside and I saw this young boy. Now, okay, some backup. The neighborhood where I live in, there was always very few children. I don't know why. It kind of sucked. So I got excited that there was this small boy just like walking around the front yard. And it didn't occur to me like, oh, this is strange because it's raining outside. There shouldn't be a young boy out there. I don't know what my mom is doing, but she was in the house and I remember like claiming out like, oh mom, there's like a young boy. And so I ran out and by the time that I got out to the front yard, there was nobody there. And my mom just got like this eerie premonition, like what young boy could it be? Like there's no young boys living in our neighborhood. She thinks that it could have been the young boy and she asked me, the ghost boy. And she asked me what did he look like and I said he had like this short kind of like blondish like cropped hair. But it had like bangs. And I distinctly remember he had different shades of blue clothing. And he was like a white boy, like I'm Caucasian, white, he was a white boy. And that is the last time that we ever saw that ghost or ever heard of anybody else seeing the ghost. It was weird. And things just got even weirder. So the ghost was no longer around, but there was like weird things that kept popping up in our garden, like in the dirt. We were told when we got the property that this area used to be somewhat of a dumping ground. Before it was just nothing but trees. People would just illegally dump, which after we saw the ghost, You know, my dad, he's a skeptic to some degree. He sincerely took into consideration what if there was a dead body dumped on the grounds where our house is. But thankfully, nothing like that has ever shown up. But yeah, it was definitely like a Steven Spielberg, Toby Hooper, poltergeist moment. You know, is this an Indian burial ground? The other really weird thing that happened that kept turning up were marbles. We never really played with the marbles, we just liked to collect them because we thought they were pretty. You know, the question did come up that could these possibly have been the toys of this young ghost boy? It's just all very strange, especially when the marbles started disappearing. That was really weird. We kept them in this glass jar, like a big mason jar, with a lid on it. And as the years progressed, as my sister and I got older, the fewer marbles there were in the jar. I think to this day, my parents don't believe my sister and I that we never played with the marbles. But I mean, my parents are probably like, okay, come on, you obviously have had played with the marbles because, and then lost them because how else could you describe them disappearing? Like, ghosts we can understand, disappearing marbles, I don't think so, is the logic behind that. But I don't know what happened to the frickin' marbles. I don't think we kept the toy guns because they were, you know, kind of rotting away. They were really rusty. We did keep quite a lot of these really antique jars that we still have in, actually above the hallway. Could that be why he was in the hallway? Yeah, maybe that's why the ghost boy was in the hallway, is because we have all of those old jars displayed above the hallway. We used to have this neighbor, so like our house is in between two lakes. It just used to be all woods when we got here. And then now it's nothing but houses. However, when we got here, there was always a neighbor lady right across our home. She was older, like I want to say maybe in her 50s, and she had 3 cats. That has nothing to do with the story, she just had 3 cats. And she knew everything about this neighborhood. We told her about the ghost boy. She did some research into some old families because she said to us, like, hey, the way that you're describing that boy, it sounds like his style of clothing and the way that he looked, it sounds like a boy from like the Depression era. I tried doing some research into this. I don't know where she got this research. This is just what she told us, that this barn still exists, but it's private property, so I don't want to show you any photos of it, but I want to say it's like 4 blocks down from our house towards this elementary school that I went to as a child. I would always pass by that barn with my school bus, and it was like there's something creepy about it, like just how old it wasn't well kept, all that jazz. Apparently, she said that there used to be a very large family that lived there during the Depression. The father of this family, he couldn't keep up with all the children during the Depression era, and so he killed his whole family. Like Amityville Horror kind of stuff. This actually happened a lot during the Great Depression, which is depressing. And I can't stress enough how common it was. So I do hope that that little ghost boy is in heaven. It's just very sad to me because I think he showed up because my sister and I were children, and he was probably very lonely. That's the way that I like to think about it. I hope that we gave him some kind of comfort in just being children, and yeah. I didn't experience any more creepy stuff for quite a long time. So I went throughout the rest of my childhood and the majority of my teenage years without experiencing anything. What happened next was that one of our very close family friends, he was waiting to move into this house. And so he had to rent a temporary apartment, and you know, he's already buying this house. He didn't want to spend so much on an apartment, you know? And so he chose the cheapest apartment that he could find. We unfortunately didn't know enough about this apartment complex. There's a lot of drug trading there. We didn't know it at the time, but there were quite a few murders that happened in those apartment complexes, a lot of suicides, a lot of overdoses. Now, okay, backtrack. So I didn't experience anything creepy for a long time, like I just said, but that's not entirely true. I did experience some creepy things, but it was more so like vibes, you know, like vibing. I would go into some people's houses and I would just be like, No. And then there'd be some houses where they would have a really creepy basement, or they would have a super creepy hallway or bedroom, and I would be like, I'm vibing, this is fine. You know, so it was just so hard to pin down. I just didn't know what to expect from people's homes or apartments. Just because something looks creepy, like I could have so much fun in an area that looked really creepy because I like horror, and I wouldn't feel anything horrifying or weird. So there was something that I did not like about our family friend's apartment. The downstairs, I was fine with. The upstairs, I hated. I didn't share this information with anybody at the time. I just felt like I had to keep it to myself, and just, you know, because I didn't know what people would say to me. I didn't want to be weird or anything like that. So I just kept it to myself. I also didn't want to like offend the guy because like, oh, your upstairs is super creepy, where he's like trying to do the best that he can monetarily. But that's where his bathroom was. And whenever we had plans to go and visit him, or he would invite us over for dinner or lunch, I would immediately go to the bathroom at my parents' place, and I would hold it in for as long as I could while we were there, because that's how much I hated going upstairs. There have been some creepy places where I'm like, this is just halfway creepy. If I see something weird, let's go for it, but I have to pee. But this was totally different. Like, I was actually fearful of the upstairs for some reason, which just makes no sense to me, because what this story is all about actually happened downstairs, where I was not afraid of. Hold up, just gotta get this oily ass forehead taken care of. The way that his downstairs apartment was set up is that as soon as you would go through the door, it was the living room, and then past the living room was the kitchen, and then next to the living room and the kitchen is where the stairs were, and then it was bedroom, bathroom, bedroom. That was it. I was sitting in their lazy boy. Right next to the lazy boy rocking chair was a futon, and in front of that was the television, and then next to the television was a little doggy bed for their chihuahua. I felt like this weird, to describe it, it's like when you hear something, you're like, huh, what's that? But I didn't hear anything, I didn't feel anything. I just had that premonition of like, what's that? And I look over next to the futon, and there's no one else in the living room but me and this dog. My mom and Adrian, I can see them clearly both sitting at the kitchen table in the kitchen, and they were like eating tacos. And I look over at Chilito, and he was sleeping, right? He's a little sleepy dog. And he just looks up at me like alert and like tense. And I look at him weird, and I look over at my mom and Adrian, and I feel that on this arm, I felt a hand. Well, it wasn't this way, it was this way. But clearly, like, I could feel every finger of a hand, and then it was gone. Kind of had a little moment to myself of total freak out, and Chilito just growled a little, but then he got calm again. I just looked over at my mom again, and I went, Mom! Like, totally scared. And she has like a mouthful of taco, and she's like, huh? And I'm like, I didn't even know what to tell her. I was just like struggling to tell her what happened, and the best I was like, a hand just grabbed my arm, and she swallowed like this mouthful of taco, and she was like, okay, I didn't want to tell anyone because I already know you all think that I'm insane, but the same thing happened to me last week in that same exact chair. And then, like, I want to say a month later, that is when the news came to us that apartment complex was not a safe place. Oh, there was this other story that I don't remember because I was like an infant when it happened. This predates being in this house, and it predates ever even being in this town. My sister was in like this stairwell, and the railing was made out of wood. And on a landing area of the stairwell, my sister had her legs like sticking in between and dangling. She didn't realize that the railings of wood were very loose. And my dad is up there with her, and she falls through. My dad swears that before he could actually grab her, it seemed like something pushed her up towards him to grab her. You could try to justify it in a million ways. Bottom line, it was still really weird. I think there's a really good reason why I have seen these things or experienced these things, and this might come as a shocker, but I feel like it's necessary to share with you guys because I think it describes very well of the culture that I grew up in and the reason why I love horror so much. And that is because my great grandma is a witch. It sounds so weird. I've said that so many times to so many people, and every time I say it, I feel like I'm in like some shitty Sabrina the Teenage Witch. Because it just sounds so ridiculous, but she is. She's still alive. She's like in her 90s, and she's kicking it. She's still in Chile. She's retired. She doesn't do it anymore. Yeah, that was her profession. That was her only job her entire life, was that she was a witch. But yeah, so my mom, she was one of 6 kids, and she was the eldest. And my great grandma took a liking to her, and she even declared her as like her favorite grandchild. She was one of those grandmas. I think there is a reason why my mom is her favorite, and that's because my mom has very, very strong premonitions. My mom isn't a witch. So my grandma would only do so many things. Like, she would cleanse houses from bad energies. That's the way that she would like describe it. She would use my mom by what they call in the witch community canary. Basically, it's like a compass of where this energy is coming from, and they call it a canary. You know, my mom helped her in her work. We call her mama. She doesn't like being called great grandma or even grandma, so I'll call her by the way that she likes to be called mama. She fascinates me. She's probably like the coolest family member that I have because she's just so inexplicable. Apparently she started this whole witch stuff at a really young age because my great-great-grandpa, her dad, was also a practicing witch. He was also born in Chile, but all of our ancestors were Sephardic Jews from Spain. Which is kind of ironic because, you know, the Inquisition was all about blaming Jews for witchcraft and just witchcraft in general, and it turns out that, like, guilty as charged, but there's nothing wrong with being a witch. Like, come on. She was helping people. She wasn't doing anything bad. She was nice. And so was my great-grandpa, apparently. I never got into any of that stuff. I do have a deck of tarot cards, but I just use it for fun. I think they're very beautiful looking. And I do enjoy the culture. I don't practice it, but I adore the history. I respect it to a very high regard. So that's like the most that I can like justify like why this stuff has happened to me during my lifetime. There's a few witchy tips that I have up my sleeve that I still use to this day to like ward off evil. I think the human mind is the best thing, just to have a strong mind and to not be fearful. But I do use I use red string, which is a Kabbalistic thing, Kabbalistic Jewish thing. If you're not Jewish and you do want to use red string like many famous celebrities do, yeah, it doesn't offend me. Go ahead, use it. As long as you are, you know, educating people on what it is and what culture it comes from, or what cultures use it. It's not just Jewish people that use it. The same with the evil eye and the Hamza. Many different cultures from Spain through North Africa, through the Levant, and even into some parts of India use the evil eye. Disclaimer, I'm not saying that Jewish people are witches or that they have a tendency to be witches or that you should be suspicious of Jews being witches. No. The only Jewish witch that I know is my great-grandma. That's it. If you meet someone who identifies as a Jewish witch that is kind of separated from the actual denominations of Reform, Conservative, or Orthodox, or even Haredim, so it's like its own separate thing, and it's quite rare. My only memory of my mama is when I visited Chile when I was 11. I was in my yaya's bedroom. So was my yaya and so was my mom. And it's bedroom, kitchen, entranceway, and then there's a bathroom and like 2.5 bedrooms. I decided to make tea. I go into the kitchen and I'm at the sink. The dinner table is behind me. The only thing else in the kitchen is a back door, which has a closed off concrete wall with this very small backyard. So there's no way that she could have come through the back door at all. I would have seen her or heard her come through the entranceway. And I'm filling up the tea kettle. I turn around and I shit you not, her and my step great grandpa, they were just sitting there at the table. And she and him already had an empty teacup sitting in front of them. How do you explain that, Mama? How do you explain that? Now, my closing story is, I'm just gonna flat out say that it was probably aliens. It happened my senior year of high school. It was in the fall, and I was in this very room. It was a really quiet night. It was a school night. I heard this very strange buzzing sound, like in the air. But it also sounded like in the air, but it sounded like it was coming in from all directions. Just all the hairs on my body just stood up. I sit up in my bed and my mom comes bolting through the door and we just lock eyes and she's like, what is that? And I was like, I don't know. Like, I thought maybe I was just, being spooked for no reason. And we look out the window of this bedroom. One by one, we see house lights turning on the lake. And then we look over to that side of the lake and we see the same thing. So we know for sure that we weren't the only people who had heard this strange noise. And it just wouldn't stop. And it sounded far away, but it also sounded really close by at the same time. And we immediately started theorizing what it could be. And my first thought was, maybe it's somebody's generator. It's not, like, the only way that it could be a generator is if every single house on each lake had a generator running at the same time. Like, that's the sound that it was making. And the sky was crystal clear. We could see stars in the sky, actually. But that's all we saw was just stars. We didn't see anything else. But in all honesty, I was expecting to see some shit go down. It just didn't stop. It happened throughout the entire night. The next day, I get assigned in my journalism class to just write an opinion piece. And I said, what if I interview classmates on what they think about aliens or what they think aliens are? I felt like a little Dana Scully. And I had asked them if they had heard anything the night previous. No one had. And so that kind of made me feel, I thought I was going to get down to something, but I didn't. So I sat down in my journalism class and I was looking into UFO sightings, but then I was looking into UFO sounds. And sure enough, throughout that entire year of my senior year in high school, this weird sound was popping up all over the place in different areas of the world. And I'll actually link them below in this video. It's the exact same noise. I listened to the audio clips and the videos when I was in class, and I got that same exact hair-raising feeling. The closest scientific reasoning that I could find about what that noise could possibly be is the shifting of the tectonic plates. I feel like people would expect that to happen. Tectonic plates have been shifting for a pretty fucking long time by now. I think people would, you would be raised with like if you hear this specific weird noise, those are the tectonic plates. Like, I feel like more people would talk about the sound of tectonic plates moving, like the way that we talk about tornadoes, the sounds and the smell in the air, like things like this, like the cue signs of this natural phenomena happening. But no, like, it was just this one singular scientist that I could find that tried to give a reason for that sound, and it just doesn't seem like enough. I still don't know to this day what it was, but I feel kind of lucky that I heard it. I'm not the only one, so that makes me feel a bit better. This was a lot of fun. I really hope that you like this makeup look. I've been kind of going for like a red look lately, and I just, I'm a fan of the Tim Burton look. What can I say? Thank you for watching this video. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and check out all of my other videos. They're a lot of fun, and they're actually centered around books. So if you're here for the whole book aspect, go at it. What should I do next? What should my next video be? I think I want to try something new once more and do a movie to book comparison on Stephen King's The Shining. Let me know what you think about that in the comments. Have a great day. Happy March. Spring is coming. I hope you have a great month, and I'll see you next week. Bye.